Welcome. Once again, sorry for the tiny delay.
Yes, y'all.
But welcome to Date Night with the Crafts.
Yes.
I am your host, Justin Kraft, and my beautiful wife. You know, I can't even put it in words today. I just want to say just off the record that I just want to say
off the record. Say the shit on record.
Off the record, on the record, between the fucking record. I love this woman, and I support her in every way. Through thick and thin,
yeah,
and I just wanted to let you know
day.
that. Yeah, we just had the worst fucking day.
I had the worst day of my life today.
So I just want to let you know I love you.
Thank you,
and I'm always here for you.
I love you too.
And we're gonna get through this like we get through every damn thing we always get through.
All right, babe.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss calling in thick, Kiara Kraft. Yes,
yay.
All right. So, anyway,
our last date night. Our last date night was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a house party for a few of our friends, Felicia and Carrie.
Oh, yeah, Felicia and Carrie.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So if any of y'all follow us, our regular pages, y'all be able to see that we had this contest, male versus females, or men versus women. I hate male and female. I don't know why I said that. And it was like a lip syncing contest.
Lip syncing contest, yeah.
Yeah, and we thought the girls were gonna win, and then you know the guys came through.
Yeah, it didn't even matter.
With a dude on roller skates. Who in the hell
comes to a party with roller skates?
Comes to a house party with roller skates on.
Obviously, this motherfucker. So he was prepared, and then he got it off, and it was funny.
Yeah.
And we had a good time. We just shout out to people that still throw good house parties. Yes. I'm talking about house parties where people don't stay on the wall. People play music. They get into.
I was a wallflower.
They get into it. They have a
beginning.
great time. Yeah, I was kind of a wallflower too. I was more like a wall weed or bush or some shit. Because it was just a long day and I was tired and I was just like, okay, I still want to come out to show my friends support.
Yeah, because they support everything we do.
Right.
One thing is that friends who show up for you.
Yeah.
Like they come to your events, they just support you. They share your posts. They talk about your podcast with people. You have to support people like that because they are really a dime a dozen.
Yeah, they really are.
You know,
they
and
really
to have them support us means everything. I mean, anything we've ever considered doing,
right? They
show up. So I'm gonna always show up for them.
Definitely.
Shout out to Carrie and Felicia. We love y'all.
Love y'all. So
what else we do? What else we do this weekend?
No, that was it.
That was it. Well, that's all we did.
No, I think we did some more stuff, but I think really that was the
biggest
biggest
thing.
Worked on
music.
Yeah, I've been working on a ton of music.
Yeah, we got some hits coming, y'all.
Yeah, we got a lot of music coming, a lot of artists coming, a lot of different things coming. So be on the up on that. Like seriously, it's some good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been happening. But yeah, that's pretty much it. 2020 is just a year of just actually showing actions. There ain't too much talk about.
What they say, let your actions be so loud that you can't hear. People can't hear you talking.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the move.
That's
for 2020.
our motto, mantra, whatever you want to call it. So
yeah,
that's where we're at right now. So anyway, on to tonight's.
Yeah, because we took out the cocktail. Justin was right. Y'all don't fuck with our cocktails. Y'all don't make these cocktails. Nobody sends me messages about cocktails. I got one message about a cocktail, and I'm putting these little things together, finding these amazing recipes and all of that. Y'all not fucking with me on these cocktails.
Yeah.
So we're not doing cocktails anymore unless y'all demand it. Then I'll come back and do some
I'll
cocktails.
start doing cocktails pretty soon on my own. And like I said, there'll be different type of cocktails. There'll be, illegal cocktails.
No, we're not making that.
Okay,
no.
right.
He always trying to get us in trouble.
All right, cool. So I was going to show people some real shit. No. Maybe they might like that, but, we'll see. Yeah. But anyway.
Our show tonight. Our show tonight is about super religious.
Yeah.
Cults, that type of thing, and how they affect relationships, how they affect the person, how they shape love, you know. But Justin, you've touched on your father being a cult leader. Yeah. And I'll say I come from a super religious family. I'm not ready to call it a cult.
It was.
No, I'm not ready to call it a cult, but it was super religious, and shaped how I feel about relationships and love in general. You know, from the isolation to trying to recruit Justin to be a part, you know, to feeling like I'm not good enough because I can't be, good enough for God. So maybe I'm not good enough for other people or good enough to even love and experience life.
And remember, these things, they never come to you as you go into this building and this guy has this big robe on with horns and they're playing this apocalyptic music and everybody's chanting and he's like, join our cult and with us, blah, blah, blah. It never happens that way. It comes across as friendly. It comes across as loving. It comes across as the thing to do. It comes across as discipline, obedience, organization. Everything that, not everything, but things that certain people in their life would really want. They feel like I need this. I need this type of guidance. I need this type of community in my life. And then that's always the selling point, you know. But then once you get in the shit, it's totally different. Then you start seeing weird things, stuff ain't adding up, and then you realize there's a story underneath everything, and it's usually full of shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't call I'm not gonna say my family was a cult, but I will say that the religious aspects of my family made it very hard to be in relationships. So most of us have not really succeeded in our romantic relationships.
Right.
We've had a really hard time. Well, we haven't, only because I've had to pull away from my family in order to really, have a successful relationship. But we haven't had the best of luck, members of my family with love.
And I just want to say this, and this is not aiming nothing at your family. So don't think I'm talking about you guys.
Don't aim anything at my family. Be careful, Justin Kraft.
I know, I'm being very,
okay.
But it's really hard when people try to give advice on relationships.
And their relationship is shitty.
Your shit is on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your shit is like on fire and it's burnt to the ground.
And they want to tell you what
chaos.
God told them to tell you about your relationship.
Like, okay.
It's like, get the fuck away from me.
I know. It's like, wait a minute. Show me where, your relationship was solid. Show me where there was like all this love. Like,
what worked for you?
Yeah.
Show me one thing that worked for you and you'll be able to get my ear.
Exactly.
But you can't point to one clear thing in your relationship or that this thing has done for your relationship. What always puzzled me when people would say, if it wasn't for God, if we didn't have Jesus between us, we wouldn't be able to make it. And I'm like, dang, that should sound good. But to me, it's like, damn, where's the love? Where's the companionship? Where's the friendship?
Yeah.
Where are the other things? So you're saying that the threat of hell is the only thing
that keeps you together.
That keeps you together,
right?
Like, what the hell?
I know, right? That's just crazy. Also, too, when you're sitting there talking to me about this relationship, and you have bruises and scratches on your face, and you're trying to tell me about what a good relationship is. I'm looking at you, and I'm like, I could see physical bruises and scratches on you.
Yeah.
It's really hard for you to try to sell me on that. And then once they, like I said, once again, they start to include religion in it. That's how they try to use the control. They weaponize it and they try to control and they go, go to God. And I'm like, okay, how come you don't go? And what happened when you went?
Yeah.
So it gets back into those things. I'm not going to get into depth with that because I can probably do 3 shows back to back alone just on that sentence. I'm dead serious.
What, go to God?
Yeah, I've researched this shit so many times. I've talked to so many different people. I tried to do it. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for people or people don't feel like
need
that.
more tangible advice.
Yeah, you just can't
say
that. So
go to God could be forgive.
Yeah, it could be a lot of different things.
Figure out how to come up with a compromise or a solution that works best for y'all. That's tangible. I can do something with that. But Kira, just have faith.
Yeah.
Kira, go to God. Pray about it. It's not, that doesn't, I do pray and I do meditate. I'm not saying that those things have no relevance or they don't help, but sometimes people need more tangible advice.
You can't just because someone comes in and says, I'm having a problem in my relationship, these things are not working out, and then you look at them and go, but did you read your Bible? Did you read this, read this scripture right here? And I'm like, okay, I read it now, but so anyway, I'm still having a problem. We're still having and you're like, well, did you read the scripture? I'm like, well, yeah, but it just didn't, and I know people are like, well, if you read and you're close to God, you understand it, then the word will be given to you and then you'll have this enlightenment. I'm like, I've kind of been there with that, and I'm not downplaying anybody on this at all. I know people that they have
that it works for.
Yeah, and they have that, but a lot of times it doesn't answer things fully, and it doesn't let you understand the human experience. You're human.
You are.
At the end of the day, you're a human. So you have to still understand who you are. You have to understand, the things, the inner workings of yourself.
Yeah.
You can't just automatically just leave your body and just go to a level of spirituality and never
that you haven't ascended to.
You haven't ascended to, and never ever worry about your human side of it when that's what all you experience every single day.
That's true. Well, without further ado, I want to let y'all know that tonight we have with us Shelly Johnson of the Latter-day Lesbian podcast, who's going to tell us all about what it was like to grow up in a cult. The mother of 7 kids has since divorced her husband and is now on a completely different new journey. Yes, learning about her sexuality and figuring out her life as a gay woman. Sorry, I messed all that up. Shelly, welcome to the show. Can you hear us?
All right.
I can hear you.
All right. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
I first of all just want to say that the whole starting late thing was not my fault.
No,
It is.
no.
This is one time when it's not, and so I'm pretty I'm kind of glad that Justin blew it a little bit so that I could look good tonight.
It was all on us, y'all.
Yeah,
the late thing was us.
Yeah. Kiara's always late.
It was not wait. We're going to share this.
Okay.
It ain't going to be all Kiara.
Okay. All right.
Shelly, we like to ask all of our guests, if a book was written about your life, what would be the title?
Oh, how about? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is Shit Show from Hell.
That sums it up. There you go.
Okay. The name of the podcast that I have with my girlfriend Mary is called Latter-day Lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born and raised in the Mormon church, which goes by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we stole that Latter-day, tagged the lesbian on, and boom, there you go.
Say it straight to the point. But also, too, it gives that back history, you know, so now you kind of know it, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, interesting.
I was going to say I have very little knowledge of Mormonism.
Okay. I actually.
Justin has a lot. He's
well, yeah.
He's been researching
so
that religion.
Look at him puffing his
Yes. I like to give my, lectures at Cambridge and Oxford about the study in history. But at one point in time, now I'll let you talk about it, of course, but
sure.
just my quick little history. When I was young, some Mormons came by the house when I was young, and then they tried to talk to me, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I was a very rude kid. I have to be up in front about that. I was kind of a feral child, if you want to say. So I was like, F you, you don't know, blah blah blah, and all this. Yeah, I was real young, and then because that's how I was taught to speak to people that try to come to your house. I don't know why. So anyway, but. So they came, they tried to talk to me, and my mom was like, y'all are full of it. Her boyfriend was like, y'all are full of it, get the hell out of here. And then I said, explain this to me. And they tried to explain it to me the best way they could.
Yeah.
And said, well, this, that. Then, of course, I did more research because I just had a lot of questions because I would see them all the time in the neighborhood riding their bikes.
Yeah.
And they looked so happy. And I was like, well, couldn't be that bad as happy as it is. And it's like 112 degrees outside in Texas. And they're riding around, all suited up and on the bikes and all that. So I was like, well, but... give or take, after that, yes, I did do a little research and found out some things, but we'll let you, of course, Shelly, fill us in on that.
Tell us more about Mormonism, because what I know about Mormonism is the lots of children, lots of marriages, polygamy, that type of thing. And I know that...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know that, for a lot of us, we have freedom in our relationships, and I don't look at those types of relationships in that particular religion as having a whole lot of freedom.
No. That's so I'll just back it up. Being born and raised in it really does qualify on every sense of being a cult. You're told you have your agency, you can choose to do whatever, but here's the thing: if someone says this is the way that you get back to heaven, this is the way that you make God happy, you live exactly this way. And then if you don't, you basically go to hell and you don't get to be with your family in heaven. But you can choose that, And so it's not really a choice. It's like, well, of course I don't want to go to hell and never see my family again. And so you do everything that's been planned out for you. So growing up, I was the youngest in a family of four kids, which is rather small for Mormons. My mom was a slacker, I guess. I don't know. Get it together. I was going to birth my way into heaven. Like, I had 7 kids. I was getting there. Anyway, so being the youngest, I have 3 older brothers, and Mormonism is very, very sexist. Only the men can have the priesthood, meaning this close connection with God. It's all made up bullshit anyway, but this is what I learned growing up.
Yes.
My sole purpose in life was to get married to a man, to a returned missionary, a worthy young man. So I needed to keep myself virginal and clean and learn how to bake bread and sew shit. And which to this day I refuse to sew because that's just
right.
not gonna do it. And if I'm lucky, and if I keep myself clean and worthy, a young man will serve his mission, come home from his mission after 2 years, and find me and take me to the temple to be sealed.
Yes.
So yeah, it's wacky, but it's like you don't just go get married. You have to go to the temple and be sealed, which means you have to be completely clean. You have to be forgiven of all of your sins. Sins like premarital sex, huge no-no. Here's a fun one for you. No masturbation. Nip, 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 nip. So these poor boys who, come on, who hasn't by the time they're 20,
right.
21 years old, they have to confess that to their bishop, go through all this repentance. You go to the temple, you get sealed together, but I promise to obey my husband in the temple, and he promises to obey the Lord. So it's always the man has this tie with God.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of here to be a vessel to make babies.
Yeah.
So as a girl growing up in this with a very strong male family, I just felt worthless. It's like the boys got to do the cool, fun stuff. They were always out camping and doing these like manly things. And my mom is, making quilts and shit. And I don't care about that, but I've got to hang out with her.
Right.
And she's like your typical Mormon mom who has no opinion about anything, who does whatever the men say and is happy to do that, thinks that is her calling, and God wants her to be obedient to her husband.
Yeah.
And I just had to be in that growing up, and it hurt me to grow up in that. But the worst part is that I believed it was true.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up thinking this is bullshit. When I'm 18, I'm leaving. I grew up thinking this hurts me, but that's what God wants. So, okay.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, God was just a sexist, kind of a jerk, just loved me less than the boys, and I just had to deal with it. So it's not a great way to start your life or to live your life. So when I got married, I didn't marry someone that I would have actually married.
Yeah.
I'm gay. That's not a thing that could be in Mormonism. So I sure wouldn't have married a guy. But I knew that was the only way that was going to make my dad proud of me. That was the only way I was going to be on the path. I had a lot of depression growing up, and I was taught that if you're depressed, it's because you're being disobedient to God. And so when I was unhappy, I just told myself, well, I need to get married. I need to have kids. I need to obey the commandments. I need all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely confining religion. And women are just second-class citizens all around.
What did Mormonism teach you about relationships and love?
Oh, God, the worst things. They taught that the man is the man of the house. He makes all the decisions. The woman should not work outside of the home. She stays in the home, and she has a million kids. And what God wants for her to do is to put everyone ahead of her. So I spent my married life doing everything for my husband and my kids, thinking somehow that makes me a righteous woman, and it exhausted me. I was empty by the end.
I wouldn't say that there's a big difference between that sort of mindset when it comes to Christianity either.
Well, they're very much aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much aligned.
Yeah, because I don't see a lot of companionship in households where people are really religious. It's more of a authoritative type situation where everybody kind of bows to the dad. The mom is on the same level as the kids for the most part.
Exactly. Same level as the kids.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't understand how that could be, how a healthy relationship could come about from.
Not healthy.
Yeah. Nothing really could spring from it. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel personally, it's one of those things where, guys get into it because they can have that control, and they have this way now of this spirituality control. And it's just all about control. When it really boils down to it, it's just a control thing. and guys figured out a way that we can, put this situation into play. Because once people see the community, then they buy into it, and they go, well, it has to be right.
As a man,
Everybody's doing it.
Definitely would. And then as a woman too, because it's kind of like we as women, for the most part, aspire to be wives. So just knowing that if you do these things, that marriage is guaranteed for you almost is, this seems like a good situation for a woman who aspires to be a wife. But in today, 2020, for the most part, we want to go after purpose and,
Absolutely.
Exactly. So question, because I noticed, I don't mean to cut you off, Shelly, but I noticed that, like you said, you were gay, but you had 7 kids. So, like, the whole thing was, I guess you kind of felt like you knew you were gay very early on in your age, right? I'm taking that.
I didn't. And this is the great thing about this is looking back over my life after I started having feelings. Okay, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
My husband and I left the church when I was about 40 years old. And I had been raised to think that gay people were evil. They were trying to destroy traditional marriage. This was Satan's plan. And I had this hate in my heart because this had been drilled into my head over and over and over. I was basically raised to be disgusted by myself, and to hate myself. We left the church. I started making friends outside of church because as a Mormon, like 99.999% of your friends and family are Mormon. So it's your little group. And when you leave the church, they don't really want much to do with you anymore because you've been possessed by Satan or some dumb shit. I know, right?
Yeah.
And so I started making friends at my new gym, and I made some gay friends. And I was like, oh, they're actually nice, and they're not just out to have like random sex every night. And they're good people. They have children and like jobs, and they're nice. Blew my mind. Like, oh my God, like they're not the devil.
Yeah.
And as soon as in my heart I thought, you know what, I don't think God cares if people are gay. I don't think he hates anybody, much less gay people. I'm telling you, within a week I started finding myself being attracted to women. It was suddenly I had opened my heart to who I was. And I was thinking, why are these women like so hot to me? Like, what is going on? I mean, by the way, I had a mullet in high school and I played college basketball. So someone should have fucking told me I was you can't not be with a mullet and college basketball.
Right.
But no one told me, so I went ahead and got married and made myself miserable. Anyway, I started looking back over my life, and I recognized all these signs when I was a child that I was gay, that I didn't recognize when I was a child because it's not even a thing. They don't even talk about gayness to children when you're a Mormon. It doesn't exist. And when you're told the time you're born that you're going to keep yourself clean and worthy, get married in the temple and start a family, anything else just kind of bounces off of you because you can't let yourself think about it. But looking back, multiple instances with friends who, by the way, are out of the closet lesbians now, that I had this connection with and this desire to be next to them all the time and know everything about them. And I wanted their shoulder to be touching my shoulder, like gay shit, And it didn't dawn on me until I left the church, opened my heart, and then I was like, oh.
Were you afraid when you started having those feelings? Considering how you felt so strongly about it before, like when you started having those feelings, did it scare you?
It was scary because I knew that I would eventually get to the point where I had to make a decision because I knew I wasn't in love with my husband. We hadn't been really happy. He's fine. He's fine enough guy to like run a business with or raise children with because he's a great dad. But as far as me as a companion and who I would be attracted to, it's just not my jam at all. And there was actually, I'm glad you asked that, there was actually an instance where I had been hanging out with a couple of friends of mine who were girls, and I just found myself very attracted to them. I didn't push anything or whatever because I just was feeling out my emotions, And I loved being out with them. I just wanted to be with them all the time. I hated going back home because then I had to try to force this relationship with my husband who didn't understand why I didn't want to hug him, why I didn't want to kiss him, why I didn't want to be intimate with him. But I came home one day, and keep in mind, I've got 6 or 7 kids. He and I run a business together. Like we're pretty connected of things that we have to do. And I came home and I walked in the door, and it was late at night. He was already asleep. He's sleeping on top of the covers in just his underwear. And he's a good looking guy. He works out, and I wouldn't stood next to him. I just stared at him. I stared at him for like 5 creepy long minutes. just like wanting to feel something and say, please just let me feel something in my heart, some connection, some attraction, something. And just nothing, like emptiness. So I went in the bathroom and I sat down and I just bawled. I just sat there and cried because I had already made the decision that I wouldn't leave him. And that I was just going to live the rest of my life in a mediocre marriage, mediocre to shitty, depending on the day, and never feel connection. It was a horrible moment for me.
Yeah, I could see that, you know. And I mean, like I said, that is the way that, you know, you're raised up, you know. And I think the thing I hate about it the most is about the thing with the religious part about it is the whole prosecution of things. You know, it's like the whole
persecution.
I'm sorry, I say prosecution.
Is this the prosecution involved too?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking of an attorney. So I'm thinking of like a court, right?
Oh yeah.
I think of a court, and I always think of it because when I read in the Bible, it's like a court, and the angel is your attorney, and then the devil is sitting on the other side, and the devil is always the prosecution.
He's a prosecutor. Yeah.
And he's a prosecutor, and he's pointing at you, and he goes, Justin did this, Justin did that. He's fucked up. Yeah. He's going. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how I always thought about it. But yeah, so the persecution of the prosecutor. Yeah. But you know, it's always been one of those things where it's just like to put that weight on people is something else. That experience is something else. You know, to actually look at someone in the eyes and go, you know, you're gonna go to hell if you have these feelings, if you think like this. Yeah. And then leave that on them and that weight, and they live with that for their whole life. Yeah. Yeah, that shit.
The burden of hell is heavy. The burden of hell is heavy. I will say that that even though I've had to find God for myself because the way that I was brought to God, just I couldn't live like that because I felt, you know, as the Bible says that you should, you know, you should wake up every morning and persecute yourself.
Flog yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Yeah. Especially not being a person who's trying to do the right things, whose intentions typically come from a good heart, you know, but to wake up every morning and persecute myself and to, you know, live under the thumb of being the guys of I'm a sinner. Yeah. I had no way of it. It was no escape. No. And if I can't love me, how am I going to love you? How am I going to love my children? And it just became, it was a burden for me. I'll ask you this, Justin. Being in a relationship with me, coming from a religious family like I came from, what was that experience like? I know that we talk about it, but
it was hard at first because you know you were going through similar things. Yeah. You know, I saw how they were using certain things and putting certain things on you. And then also too, the thing that got me the most was the kind of, I'm not going to say people were just lying, but people kind of just making up stories to kind of say, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, or she's doing this, she's doing that.
Yeah, and the whole God showed me this
she's
about
hiding
you.
And she's really a bad person, but she's trying to be better. And I'm just like, where are you getting this from? I'm seeing this woman every night. She's always been nice to me. She's always loving to me. She's always take care of me. You know, she's the greatest gift to me. I'm actually happy. I'm telling you I'm happy, and I'm being really serious about it. I'm like, I'm a happy person because she's in my life. And then you're still like, no, trust me. You just don't know her, and God knows her, and not the devil's always after her. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the devil's after me a lot more than her. But, you know, but it's just the fact of, that was the hardest part to deal with that, you know. And it used to get me upset a lot because, you know, there was just a constant wave of attacks, you know. And I'm like, for people that say that they love God and to have this loving thing and to be close to God, who is the greatest form of love, it's like there's no love at all. It's zero love. I'm talking about negative.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's also, too, something that you witnessed in Mormon marriages? The lack of love?
Here's the thing that's good and bad about being an ex-Mormon.
Okay.
Because you're a Mormon for so long, you know what they think of you now that you've left. Because you've been in it. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was trained up to think a certain way about people who left. And what it is people leave the Mormon church because they just want to sin. Or because they're just confused and they're wayward. Oh, they may say they're happy, but they're not really happy. It's fake happiness. So I joke now about like, this is the best fake happiness I've ever had in my entire life.
Right.
You know, you're taught that anything but exactly what they tell you to do is not actual happiness. It's fleeting. It will go away. It's not true joy. And I'm like, you fuckers, this is the happiest I've ever been.
Right.
I get to be myself.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I first left the church, and came out of the closet, of course, my parents were trying to find reasons as to why I thought I was gay.
Yeah.
And then it was the whole, every time they would talk to me, it felt like they were talking to me like, oh, poor you. So how are you doing? Justin, how are you doing? Okay.
Yeah,
are you all right? It's like, I am so happy that you're bringing me down with these stupid questions.
Right.
It's like they can't see that you're happy if in their mind you are sinning them because their God said you were, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like you can't win. And so then it also pulls you away from your family. And I bet you've experienced this too, because you feel like since you've left the religion, they are watching you. And if you have one bad day, they're going to say, see?
Yep.
See, I told you.
Yep.
Maybe you can come back. So now whenever they call, how are you doing? Oh, I'm great. I have to lie to them every day about how my life is perfect now.
They do.
Because if I were to say, you know what? My kid keeps flunking out of community college and he's growing weed in his closet. Like, I can't tell them that.
Right.
They'll say, well, you should take him back to church.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100% because I feel like I used to joke with Care about that. I was like, I can live to be 95 years old, and then the day I die, they're going to be like, see, I told you. See, that's what happens to people that turn their back on God and blah, blah, blah. You know, I used to always tell Care that, sister, no matter what happens to me, trust me, it was never that. It was, you know, just the way life went. But yeah, I mean, it's very true because, you know, me, like I used to always tell people, I was like, you know, after me and Kara started kind of, you know, doing our thing, we kind of started moving away from everybody and our life started going the way it was going. I was like, you know, we're happy. And they're like, well, no, you're not. And I'm like, look.
You're not happy because you don't have God. But I do have God. I just don't have your version of God.
Your version.
You know? And I was like, we're not showing up at your house with the windows busted out, her car keyed up. She's not coming over there in the middle of the night yelling, screaming about something I did with the kids. My kids are not calling you crying. You have absolutely no problem. And if that has been going on for years and years and years and years and years, and every time you come over our house, we're happy, we're doing stuff, we're watching TV, everybody's in the living room together, then it should show you something. It should show you something.
Yeah.
But people still don't want to give that credit, and they still don't want to even believe in happiness even when they actually see it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that gets me so fucking confused. Yeah. I'm like, if I guide you to the promised land, I'm like, well, here's the promised land. You're like, wow, it has everything I want and everything I thought the promised land was. But I just don't believe it. Yeah. Like, but you're here though. I just don't want to believe it. You know, and I'm like, why? Because it's me that showed it to you?
Yeah, because it's in it's contrary to everything that they have grown up to believe.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this too, Shelly. Do you find yourself at times, excuse me, still you still hear like the voices in the back of your head that tell you that you're sinning or that something isn't right, or have you been able to escape that, or is that still something that happens?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. I moved through that. What it took for me was to really do a lot of. Well, I tell you what, starting the podcast, Latter Day Lesbian podcast, was huge for us. We started just so I could kind of get my story out there. But in doing that, the podcast blew up, got real popular real fast. So we're like, shit, we need to find more content. So we started doing research into Mormonism. And the more I looked into the history and the abuses and all the stuff, I'm like, you could not pay me enough for me to go back to that damn church.
Yeah.
It took me really, because you know when you leave a cult, you initially don't trust your feelings because when you're in the cult, your heart swelled and you felt good when blah blah blah, and you had all these things making you think it was true, like these things in your heart, which are, for example, you go to a really good concert, right? A beautiful song. And you cry because it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. But that song could be sung by an atheist, right? It has nothing to do with God. It's just things sometimes hit you.
Human connection.
So when you're told, when you're told, do these things and you'll be happy. So you do all these things and you have a good day and you're like, oh yeah, it's the spirit telling me Mormonism is true. But no, I just had a good day. That's it, you know? Yeah. And so you start wondering what's right and what your body is really feeling or what you're just so, you're told you should feel. It takes a lot of unpacking emotions. Yeah. But for me, researching Mormonism, finding out the lies, the bullshit, the abuse, it's bad.
Yeah.
It made it so much easier for me to be like,
yeah,
I'm not upset that I left.
Yeah, and I get that because even in my research of it, I felt that reading pretty much what Joseph Smith came to and how he found out, how he wrote the principles, and everything else, it just seemed like a whole bunch of plagiarism in a way from Christianity. And it seemed like he pretty much read the Bible and then thought about some really cool shit that he can kind of say and do. And it was like, man, we could do this and all that, and then kind of branch off and have our own little clique and do our own thing, and then we can, build this into something else.
But that's any branch of religion.
Yeah, but it was really...
but Joseph Smith's like, I can marry a bunch of teenage girls and have sex with them.
Yes, that's what it was. Cult. It was kind of like he wrote it to like, man, I could get people to believe in this.
So what makes something? What determines whether something is a religion, a valid religion, or a cult? The amount of members, because like even you're saying that Mormonism, through your view, is a cult, but it has 14 million plus followers.
14 million plus brainwashed people.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah.
I think for a cult, it is basically like, is there a leader?
Yeah.
Do you have to pay money to belong? Do they tell you what to think, what to do, how to act, and is out of fear of going to hell? It's all this all or nothing, following completely. In Mormon religion, the prophet, and I use very loose quotations on that, whatever he says goes. Doesn't matter what he says, they're going to do it. Because in their minds, because the prophet tells them that he speaks for God. God told me to tell you this. And they don't even question it. Yeah. And as I started doing research about prophets throughout Mormonism, they contradicted each other all the time.
Yeah, they did.
All the time. I'm like, wait. So if God told this dude this thing, and God never changes, right? Like,
no.
he doesn't get finicky and be like, man, let's do this instead. So if he tells this prophet one thing, and then the next prophet in line's like, no, actually, God said this now. Like, no, it's not even just a small misinterpretation. It's like misinterpretation. It's huge doctrinal changes. And if these men were led by God, they wouldn't have been polygamists, They wouldn't have been marrying other people's wives and sending those men off to war to die so they could have their wives and their children. They wouldn't be having sex with 13, 14-year-olds. They wouldn't be having their like marrying their relatives. It was just so gross. It's so gross. And the things that they said that are so disparaging toward women, and gays and lesbians have caught hell from that church. I mean, horrible hell. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we should probably say nicer things about the gays because we're starting to lose members. And so suddenly it's like, okay, well, God says that you're not apostate anymore, but you still shouldn't adopt children. It's just crazy. It's crazy. It's like, I say this all the time on our podcast, Mormon God is an asshole. He's a total asshole. He has to have told these men to say what they say. Yeah. If there's a God, and I hope there is some sort of greater being, and I believe there is, he, she, they, them, whatever, is not an asshole. They are love. That's it.
Yeah, and I agree. And the definition of a cult is a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing.
There
right?
It is. Yep.
So it's the center point. It's like central administration of your feelings and worth and who you are.
It's tied to a person.
Yeah, it's tied to a person. It has to be administrated out. That's the reason why, like when I look at stuff like Buddhism and all that other stuff, where it's just sayings and words. There's certain things and they just kind of teach, but it's not necessarily
one person standing at the front.
Yeah, one person standing at the front and just saying,
being a spokesperson for God.
Yeah, and also too, anything I think where you have to die in order to win is just weird to me.
Oh yeah.
It's like that. You got to, in order to win.
Well, you're living to die.
Yeah, you're living to die, and it's very weird when you meet people like that because they're just waiting for that knock on the door that day to the point where they're like, I don't have to do nothing in life as long as I could sit here on this couch and then I get the knock on the door and it's death, and then they take me to the other side. I won. I don't have to do nothing in this life, and that's it's weird. It's very weird, but I meet people like that all the time.
See, that's different from Mormonism.
Yeah.
in Mormonism, you have the longest list of shit you have to do. It's like a religion of works. They say, most Christian religions believe that you believe in Jesus and you're saved, right? Just don't kill people, I guess.
Right.
But in Mormonism, you have to get married in the temple. You have to have your children sealed to you. You have to pay 10% of your gross income your entire life to the church, or you don't get to heaven. It's not like give us if you have extra. You must, or you can't go to heaven. You have to go to church every Sunday. It's all of these things. It's exhausting. And if you kind of slack a little bit on one because you're exhausted, you feel so much guilt, so much guilt. And speaking of the tithing thing, a news article just came out, and it's been validated that the Mormon church, so when you pay your tithing, right, you expect it to go to help the needy. I don't have a problem paying tithing or whatever to help the needy. I want to help people have food and clothes and get medical, whatever. Yeah. Just found out the Mormon church has been taking people's tithing and stockpiling it to the tune of $100 billion.
I read that.
I
read that article. Their investment company, instead of reinvesting it into the community or into these programs to help people, they've been holding on to it. They have $100 billion now. That's what it's worth. And because of their protections, they don't have to give a whole lot of information about how they invest or what they do with their money.
They don't have to pay taxes.
They don't have to pay tax or anything.
So they're just holding that money.
Yeah. And
I look at that. You talk about you'll know people by their fruits, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like a Christian thing. I don't believe in a corporation that's supposed to be a church and having God at the head. That's what Mormons say. That would sit on $100 billion when there's people starving everywhere.
Yeah.
And so they got busted on this. And so, of course, the church had to release a press statement to kind of cover their asses. And they said they were holding on to it for the second coming of Jesus to cover all. I'm like, Jesus
expenses.
Need $100 billion.
Yeah.
He made his own damn wine. Like, what does he need that for?
Hey, man, man, Jesus is the ultimate influencer, so he needs his bread, man. He needs his bread, so you're gonna have to pay him to come down and perform and do everything else. So, but
they're securing Jesus's bag.
Yeah, but it was weird though, because like I know there was one story I read and it was true, but I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. But he was trying to buy ancient Egyptian artifacts.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and he was trying to say like, well, basically he was trying to convert them over and say, look, the Latter-day Saints, they built the temples. This came from, at this part and all this. And I was like, what the fuck? What? He was trying to, and I was just like, no. So yeah, it was really, really weird. Some of the stuff that, they were doing. Every once in a while they'd venture out. I know they would like do movies and other propaganda and stuff like that with the money. Like anybody else. But yeah, it was very strange. It was very strange.
Would you say it's a cult?
Definitely. It's definitely
Justin believes that most religions are cults.
Yeah, most religions are cults.
I'm going to have to agree with Justin.
Yeah, it's just the way it's when people it's just like I said, the biggest thing is that whole central administration of everything. When you have this one center and that one center controls everything, and it's just it's like I said, it's always like that, in these cult like things. And like I said, sometimes, man, I don't know. Maybe some people in this world, they need it. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe some people do. I don't know. But some people may need that level of discipline in their life. But from my experiences and everybody I've talked to, one way or the other, they never found happiness. They never found anything. They kind of just got lost in it, like grains of sand on the sea, on the beach.
Yeah.
They just got lost in it, and then they never found out who they were. Then they just die kind of just with nothing, and it's just weird.
Haven't lived at all.
Yeah, but they supported the church and gave them their money. So someone was like, thank you. But it wasn't from a higher power. It was a guy sitting, at a bank somewhere, and the guy taking that money out, buying his yacht and doing all the other shit, So
no. They were saving the money for Jesus. Jesus needs some money when he comes back.
Yeah, whatever. I don't even think if Jesus came back, they would even know what he looked like or be able to identify him.
Even accept him.
Or if he came back and he's like, y'all got this all wrong. Whoa, then what?
He's throat punching some people.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Then what? But yeah, it was very interesting. I know that at one point in time, my mother had told me when I was very young, she said, oh yeah, they just allowed black people in at what? It was like 76, 77 or something like that or something like that.
Yeah, well after the civil rights movement.
Yeah, well after the civil rights movement, they were like, oh, you can't even be in it. Then they came back and changed it. They were like, well, God said it's kind of cool for you guys now. And then you guys would come in and then all that. So that was one of the things I remember she had told me after they left.
Yeah.
Because I think she had told them that too. And they're like, no, it's fine. He could be in it. Like, yeah, but he can't, you know. He was like, when he was born, you know what I'm saying, he was still outlawed, you know. So y'all, you know, get the fuck out of here. I remember her telling that, but that was just one of those facts that like recycled through my mind and made me actually look it up. But yeah, interesting.
Can I give you some information on that?
Mm-hmm.
Can I give you a little information on
that?
that?
Go ahead.
Of course.
No, I mean, you had it right. So black people before then, they could be members of the church, but they could not get the priesthood or go to the temple, which means they could not be saved.
Right.
Oh.
So they don't get to go to be with God in the end. They will still take your tithing money.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, pay us.
Right.
But you don't get to be saved. And it was taught back then that, and they call it the Negro race. The Negro race, the reason you have the black skin is because you were not as valiant in the pre-existence before you came here. Right. So, I mean, imagine all these white Mormons being like, oh, well, yeah, the black people weren't as valiant. You know, it was just this instant disgust at another race taught from your prophet who supposedly speaks for God.
Right.
And actually, Joseph Smith had a servant. I read about it in one of his diaries. He had a servant, a black woman, and he sealed her to himself for eternity as a servant.
Right. Yep.
Like I am so full of power that I'm going to take this like slave girl and she will be my slave girl for eternity.
Right.
What the hell is that?
I know, right? But see, that's what I'm saying. I'm reading this shit too. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
it
like,
blows my mind that there are any black Mormons. I just want to go to them and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. I've seen, I think, 2 in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I think I've seen 2.
They have a couple that go in our neighborhood.
Yep. They send them to certain neighborhoods. Yeah. And I think I've seen like 2 of them. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? You know, and they're just like,
you know,
and it's
know
weird.
The history, my man.
Yeah, but it's weird. And you talk to them.
They just smile.
They just smile. And it's like, you know, both their eyes can kind of just be veering off in this direction. And they just start spitting off the script, you know, and they're spitting out the script. I'm like, dude, it's not working. It's not working, you know. But hey, they try. I give it to them. But, you know, hey, you know. But
it's
it's true.
Time for our game, Justin.
It's time for the game.
It's time for our game.
Okay.
Y'all ready for our game? It is
called. But let me tell you, sorry, because I had to switch to my phone and our problems, I'm about to run out of battery. Is there any way we can go back to Skype? It'll take 2 seconds to or is that going to screw everything up?
Will we be able to go back to Skype?
I don't think so.
No, it'll end.
It'll end.
Because it's going live. Can we do that? Can we?
No, I get you. Let me, I can just use my, hang on.
Okay.
We'll give you a second.
Try this.
But while you're doing that.
Want me to tell you about the game?
Yeah, what's the game today?
It's called God, let's see. Who said it? Jesus or Yeezus? That's what it's called.
I'm pretty sure this will be easy.
Our producer Danielle put this together. So for you it'll be easy. I don't know. Let's see if Shelly knows her hip hop.
Oh, I know my hip hop.
You know your hip hop?
Hold on.
That's an interesting game. I didn't know when did she come up with this.
Let me remind you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
Let me remind you that I played college basketball. So yes.
That's right. No, I got you. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're doing 90s hip hop and R&B, I would crush.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Keep your nose out to the sky, your heart to God, and your face to the rising sun.
And my choices are Jesus or
Yeezy.
Jesus or Yeezus?
Jesus or Yeezus?
I'm going Yeezus on that one.
Good.
Correct. If you love those who love you, oh, did we lose her? Oh man.
Right in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
I think her phone died.
Yeah, it did.
I think her phone died. Okay. Well, you can play with me. Go ahead. Just text her and let her know that we'll continue.
Can we call her back? Okay, we're going to call her back.
We'll call her back. Sorry about that. You know, shit happens, guys. You know, shit happens. This is a live show. You know?
I'll dance for y'all while the music goes.
Yeah, there you go. Come on, y'all. This is quality time here with us.
Oh, man, I can't dance no more.
I think her phone's it's gonna take like 5 minutes to reboot. Okay, now we're getting a little too far off right there. Yeah.
Oh, well, y'all, I tried.
We tried.
It was a good conversation.
No, just let her know it's cool. We'll just text her back. Just let her know we appreciate it. And anyway, continue on with the game. Just give me the questions.
Okay, I'll give you the question. Is she calling us? All right.
Okay, she's calling us. And did we get her Bic?
I'm here.
All right.
Hold on.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Yes,
right,
I
there you
am.
All right, there you go.
See you
All right,
my
awesome.
gaming headphones. Okay. All right.
All right, good.
Sorry about
All right,
that.
so
Okay, I got the first one right.
Yeah,
All right,
you got
go
the
ahead.
first right. Okay, the next one. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you?
I mean, it's a little rhymey, but it sounds a little.
Mm,
Do we lose her?
no, not yet.
What did you say, Shelly?
Wait. I gave it to Jesus, but now I'm questioning.
No.
because of your
You're
reaction.
right. That is Jesus.
It is Jesus.
That was close.
Let me eat some of that red stuff because I am exhausted.
Oh
What the hell?
God.
She put that on there.
I mean,
That's Jesus. That's easy.
it's got to be Kanye.
Yeah.
No, that's Jesus.
Ah.
Genesis 25:30.
Give me some of that red stuff.
Give me some of that red stuff because I'm exhausted.
That just got me
Jesus was
somewhere
in
else.
Genesis?
Huh?
See, I thought I knew the Bible.
No,
We'll talk
No,
about
we'll talk about that later. Well, he was in the beginning, accordingly
Okay.
to.
Was it Yahweh?
Okay, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes.
That's Jesus.
Jesus.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all didn't know. Kanye is a
I
prophet.
was so sure.
Yay
on
up
that.
in here
Apparently.
spitting parables.
Kanyeism.
Yes. Okay. One day the light will shine through, and one day people will understand everything I ever said or ever did. Jesus or Jesus?
Man.
This shit's actually kind of hard. I thought it was going to be this challenging and shit. I was like, all right.
Let me read it again. One day the light will
too, but-
shine through, and one day people will understand everything I ever did. Jesus or Jesus?
See, here's what throws me off on this game is sometimes Jesus rhymes and sometimes Kanye doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going with Jesus on that one.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, Jesus like our Lord and Savior?
No, Jesus said that. Jesus is on it, y'all. Y'all, Jesus on it. Let's see. You should only believe about 90% of what I say. As a matter of fact, don't even believe anything I'm saying at all. Jesus or
That
Jesus?
is not. That's Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, pretty much. He told you that one.
Yep. Healthy people don't need a doctor, but sick people do.
Oh, I know that one.
Who you
You already
going
know
with?
this one, Justin? It's Jesus with
Yeah.
a J.
Yeah, it's Jesus. Yeah.
Last one. Everyone has heard and learned from me comes to me. Everyone who has heard and learned from me comes to me. Jesus or Jesus?
You know.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you know that one.
Yeah.
All right. So now you have won your way back to heaven. That's what
That game, the prizes, you
Yeah.
win your way back to heaven.
Yeah. So I'm ordained to give you that way back now. So since I'm a man and I'm closer,
You said you're a man, right?
yeah, I'm closer to God than you. So now you know, I'll let you back in.
You know, I really like Justin for like the last hour until.
Right. So okay, well, cool.
This
That was
old
fun.
heathen, this
Right.
heathen over here.
Right. But man, that was a good game.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That was pretty cool. I have to give Daniel credit for that.
Yay, Danielle.
Yeah, that was some dope
Good
shit. Yeah, some
job.
dope shit. So,
Yeah.
so
In closing, we have our last question I want to ask you. Since going through all of this, what have you learned?
Oh wow.
Short answer though. We're not too long, but yeah.
Yeah, I have learned that nothing is more important than my own happiness. And the reason I say that is I was taught my whole life to give to everyone else, which sounds like a good idea until you are not yourself anymore.
That's true.
And you've given yourself so much that you are gone. and what my needs and my happiness and my life, like this is my life. There might just be one chance here, you know? It is important to be yourself and find your own happiness. The happiness that you want, not what someone tells you should make you happy. You decide what makes you happy.
Yeah. All right.
And 10,000 other things.
I'm pretty sure there is a lot. That's why I know that was a difficult question to answer. But kind of keep it short. But good.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like this conversation.
It was a great conversation.
Thank you, Shelly.
Yeah.
Where can people find you to find your podcast and to listen to your show?
Sure. So the podcast is called Latter Day Lesbian. It's LATTER-day, DAY, lesbian. So if you've heard of Mormons as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Latter-day Lesbian, just getting that out there for people who are not ex-Mormon. You can listen to the podcast on any platform. We're all over the place. We're just starting our new season. So we're in season 2, and it's been successful. We have fun.
Awesome.
We actually have something called the fucked up Mormon phrase of the day, which is where, so my podcast host, Mary, my girlfriend, she was never Mormon. So I'll tell her, you know, the fucked up Mormon phrase of the day is, and I'll give her some, there she is. I'll give her some Mormon term like the Liahona. No one but a Mormon's gonna know that shit, so she's got to try to figure out what it is. So we have a good time. The podcast, it's raw. We get emotional. There's a lot of healing, but we crack the hell up all the time too. So that's the podcast. You can also find Latter Day Lesbian podcast on Facebook. There's also, you can follow me, Shelly Johnson. I am on Facebook. We do a lot of discussing there too. Instagram and Twitter are at Latter Day Les, LES.
Can we get that up on the screen so people can see?
What's that?
I was going to ask our engineer if we can get that up on the screen so people can see where to find you on IG and Twitter.
Well, yeah, we talk about the first part, the first few episodes is my story coming out of the closet, ex-Mormon and everything, but that has branched into all sorts of religions and just talking about just a lot of different things. Kind of recovering from religious trauma is basically what we're doing.
Got you. All right.
Yeah, we have a good time. We're very interactive with our listeners too. We started actually a midweek podcast as well, where we just read people's letters on the podcast. People love to hear their stories, and it helps them heal because, one, they're writing it down. You know how writing really helps you heal through emotions and things and trauma, and then hearing the story read really gives it validation. So we do a lot of good things. We try to do a lot of good things in the community. And laugh.
Yeah.
Lots of drinking.
Good, got you. We might need to start doing that on here, more drinking.
I know. We need to start making cocktails. Maybe if we made cocktails on the show, people would make them.
But like you said, Shelly, you know, we really appreciate you being on here.
Yes.
Thank you for being on here.
Yeah, you were fun.
Yeah, it was great talk. We had a fun time. And but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into our closing now and wrap this bad puppy up. And then did you have anything that you wanted to say before we go?
No, I've had such a shitty day. I'm going to leave it to you, Justin. You bring in the closing remarks. Go ahead. Go with it.
Oh, well, my closing remarks are pretty much happiness.
Happiness. Go ahead.
Happiness. Please understand what happiness looks like. Please accept happiness when it comes. And let all that other shit go and just really live in the moment and understand it and feel it. That's the only way you're going to be able to get to really where you want to go in this. A lot of people are looking for healing. A lot of people are looking for community. A lot of people are looking for happiness, or looking for love. And I think a lot of times you become just completely out of touch with yourself sometimes on this. I know some people that are born into it, they can't help that. But, you know, a lot of people that are kind of wandering around, they're looking. That's the point in time.
Well, when you say born into, you like born into happiness?
No. Born into other, like a cult, or born into things where people have already scheduled that for you. They've already put your life into, you know, a series of events, and they're like, here you are, you're going to do this and going to do that. So that you don't have that point. The point of your happiness may come later, like how Shelly did. It may come later in your life when you just finally decide to make that decision. And it's hard because some people can't make that decision, and they're afraid. And they're afraid, and then they live the rest of their life, as you were saying, in mediocre or shitty. You know, so I got that part of it. But again, I kind of lost my train of thought when you said that. But getting back to it, just looking and understanding and feeling it out. You have to feel who you are.
Yeah.
You know,
it takes, I will say this. So I will say something.
Mm-hmm. I knew you was going to say something.
I know, because this is what you cannot be a coward.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go after your happiness, you're going to go after love, you're going to go after all of these things, you're going to find yourself, you can't be a coward. Yeah. It takes so much bravery.
Yeah.
To stand, stand up and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And
that, 'cause
love it, take it. Don't take it, whatever. This is me.
Yeah.
So you can't be a coward going after these things. Shelly wasn't a coward.
Mm-hmm.
I had to not be a coward. I had to stand up to people in order to live the life that I want to live, and so did you.
Right.
Because
there's no shortcut, and that's what I was getting to in that whole big thing I was saying.
Yeah.
Is there's no shortcut. No one could sit there and say, I'm going to lead you to happiness.
No.
And it's
so
like,
personal.
Yeah, it's very personal. So it's like no one can just, take my hand and guide me and go, oh man, I feel better now. I'm happy now.
Yeah.
Thank you. It doesn't work that way. Every situation is unique. People are unique in their own way, in their sense, in their lives.
Yeah.
So that's just not going to do it. You're going to have to really look at who you are, dig in deep,
be brave
open
enough
to experiences, and be brave enough
to
go after your life.
All right.
All right.
I like that word, Justin Kraft.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
So once again, guys, thank you for everything. Thank you for watching tonight.
Yes.
Thank you for being part of our adventure.
Yeah. I'm sorry my mood is like so low, y'all. If y'all knew what I had to fight through to get here, y'all would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't.
But some people would.
Some people would. You'd appreciate it.
I know. But it's been a long ass day.
It has been.
Yeah. So.
But if you want to follow our show, we are on IG. Facebook at Date Night with the Crafts, on Twitter at Craft Date Night. You can go there and find us, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and also Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast.
Yes.
Go there. We put up a new show. You should have it by tomorrow. But comment, share it. Let us know what you think.
Nothing to share.
DM us if you have a question or a comment, something that you'd like to, have us bring up on the show. We're here for y'all to help y'all navigate this thing as we navigate it. So as we get the information, we're bringing it to y'all.
Definitely.
Okay. But again, we want to thank Shelly for coming on the show. Thank y'all for listening, tuning in every Thursday. We appreciate it. We love y'all. Y'all enjoy y'all date nights this weekend.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Mwah.